Sponsored by Dennis J. Courtney, M.D., Director of the Courtney Medical Group, located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray, Pennsylvania. For more information or to make an appointment, call 724-942-3002. That's 724-942-3002 for Dennis J. Courtney, M.D.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to An Impact on Your Health. An Impact on Your Health, where every day our goal is to have you learn at least one thing to help you live better and longer. An Impact on Your Health, heard each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney, and I'm with you each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9. An Impact on Your Health, where each day you'll find current medical news, knowledgeable guests, fascinating health topics, and where we do encourage you to call in to join in. Today, well, it is a Friday version of the show, a get 'em up, out of town version, certainly. Different, however. Normally we would try to open it up for you and allow you just to set the agenda. Today, in keeping with our jam-packed December schedule, well, we just didn't have the time to do that today. We have instead a guest you know very well. In fact, two guests. It's a two for today. We're going to be bringing James Navarro to the show. Of course, he's the father of one Thomas Navarro, a young boy now gone, now passed away from a brain tumor. But the saga of that family, the plight of Thomas Navarro, is one that we lived through back in 2000 and 2001. Oh, it led to congressional intervention. The congressman came on our show. The difficulty that was exposed with parents trying to decide the treatments for their children was exposed, and the efforts to try to correct that obscene knowledge that we now have, that we don't have any control over what our children will receive in the way of treatment. The government will decide is being attempted to be changed by a bill called the Thomas Navarro Patients' Rights Act. So on the other side of the coin today, we're going to be bringing Beth Clay on board. She certainly is very well aware of the Thomas Navarro saga. She was the administrative assistant or something like that, I always get this wrong, for Congressman Dan Burton, and now is a lobbyist in D.C. Going to ask her, too, about that bill that passed this week in the Senate with respect to Food Safety Act. I know there was quite a bit of fervor in the alternative community about it. I'll get her take on it in terms of how it looks for the Senate, or for the House, and anything else you want to mention about it. So that's going to be our Friday show today. Interesting as it will be. Going to find out about the documentary, how things went. We certainly advertised it here enough when the documentary film on the life of Thomas Navarro and his plight was brought to, it started out in California. We'll find out where it went. We'll find out all of that today with Jim Navarro, and Beth Clay is our featured speakers. Now look, if you have a question or comment you want to ask, it doesn't matter whether it's a Friday, any typical Friday or not. The number to do so, as always, will be 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. Of course, I'll give that number additionally throughout the hour. Now, going down through the list of up-and-comings, next week is going to be a jam-packed week, too, because we kick it off with the Olbus line. Now, you know, we've always said we, and I keep using the word we, my little partner in this regard, Arlene Brecker, who has passed away, is when I use the word we, with respect to Olbus or Epicor. You know what we means. Anyway, Olbus was a great symptomatic relief of the symptoms of cold. You're not supposed to get one at all if you take the Epicor, but if you do, or if you're not taking it, you need symptom relief, Olbus line. We're going to be discussing it with one Susan Smith-Jones, a peppy little California gal, who's going to be on our show on Monday, author of 3 books already. The lady is just boundless with her energy. She's going to be our guest to talk about The Joy Factor, her newest book, as well as the entire line of the Olbus products, which I hope we can readdress and get you familiar with once again. Then on Wednesday, we're going to be bringing back, I hope you enjoyed him because he was here a week ago, talking about Peter DeWitt, the South African who is in Texas now. I said he's going to be shot on sight at any medical school he attempts to speak at. He's talking about his book, Heal Thyself, paraphrase, Transform Your Life, Transform Your Health. An interesting approach to disease as a medical doctor, talking to another medical doctor, as he is, of course, one. Weren't you intrigued by this issue of disease and the mental and spiritual component of it? I'll just quote that. I can't get over this quote. The quote really says so much. If you have heard me mention it, maybe you'll enjoy hearing it again. If you've never heard it before, how about this for a quote? Dr. Claude Sabac, he talked about him, a Frenchman, who has been one of his mentors, says this: disease is the brain's best solution to keep the person alive as long as possible. Therefore, disease is a survival program. We'll mull over that for a while. We'll mull over it again when we get into the book itself. I received my signed copy of the book. I'm plowing through it. I'll be up to the task, I promise you, by next Wednesday, and we'll have at it again with Peter DeWitt. Next Friday, speaking about a jam-packed week, another, well, yes, get him up out of town version, but completely different for us. We're going to have Deborah Ray with us. Deborah's going to be coming aboard to talk about, well, whatever she's doing at the time. It always changes. The lady has the boundless energy to boot. She promised she's going to give us the lowdown on her marriage. We didn't know it. We found out whenever Deanna Naylor let it out of the bag. She didn't even know she was letting it out of the bag. And so Deborah chuckled when I mentioned it. Deborah, you just can't go off and get married without your public knowing about it. All the people who supported you. So she promises to talk about her husband, Ron. I didn't question her any more about it. I'm going to be learning with you on how this couple got together, where they met, and whatever else she wants to tell us, and we'll let it go with that. Remainder of the month, hey, Brian Fultz is coming back. Did you learn much about the standard process line? I thought the two interesting things that come out of our show on Wednesday was with respect to the uniqueness of standard process. One is the food sources, the vegetable sources for all their supplements, they make themselves at the farm. And of course, if it's something that doesn't grow well there, they contract it out. They are 100% in control of the growing of anything that they put inside of their supplements, which is a real rarity. I don't know of another company that does. And by the way, if somebody out there does know of one, let me know, because I think it is just that unique. The other thing, of course, is that when talking about vitamins, we knew about A, B, C, D, and E. We found out there was an F and a G, and we stopped there. And if you were listening to the show on Wednesday, you know about vitamin F and vitamin G. We'll talk about them once again when Brian Fultz returns on the 13th. Now, I want to back up just a track because on the 9th, the Freedom of Choice in Cancer Therapy group, once again, it is not the third Thursday, it's the second Thursday, but I know that you usually do this in the month of December. They're going to have their featured speaker up there on the 9th. I normally like to get them here on the show so that you can hear some advance words from them, but we're so packed, we don't have a slot to even put them in. I'm just going to mention that there are two guests. You get another two for this month. Phyllis Pipkin and Marilyn Becker is going to be there. They're going to take the stage at different times. Phyllis is going to be talking about the five elements. Oh, yeah, there you go. The 5 elements of healing. And Marilyn's going to be talking about benefits of boosting your immune system. That's going to be 7 o'clock, so it's the same time, same place, days in, different day, folks. It's the 9th, those of you who continue to go and support them. And then as I peek into January, just to mention, Stuart Reeves is coming back. He's that knowledgeable guy right there at the inception and the creation of this product called Epicor. Diamond V, the animal feed folks, switched some gears here in the latter part of the 1990s, and voila, a product emerges, which is a signature line, and Stuart Reeves is quite knowledgeable in the immune system. We're going to be talking about it more on the 12th of January, and that's about far enough into the future that we need to go right now. That was just to let you know that Stuart will be coming back with us. Don't forget, too, you'll hear the spots done when we cut the commercial breaks. We got it from Fruit of the Spirit, that gift pack that Fruit of the Spirit offers this month for the $29 you'd normally spend for the bottle of Fruit of the Spirit alone. Now comes in a gift pack, not only the bottle of 20, that is still valued at $29, but a shot glass. Yes, I will say shot glass. They call it a measuring glass. And the book Harmony, written by Deborah and her physician friends, and a booklet on Fruit of the Spirit itself. The spot will give you the phone number. You'll hear it mentioned a couple of times this morning, 800-793-8714. So I won't repeat that, but I will give you the website. We now have a website, drcourtney.fruitspirit.com. And for you techies out there, you can order it online. Get ready, too, as the year turns. I'm going to bring one Edward Kane on the show. We've had him here before. We're going to heat things up. We're going to get very controversial, only because the literature is pointing that way. Fish oil isn't all that it's cracked up to be, and I'm unfortunately going to have to expose it in a similar fashion as I did the vitamin C a number of years ago. Anyway, more on that subject as time ticks on. Okay, let's take a short break. And in the interim, I'm going to go get one guest. Bill is going to go get another. He's going to hit a button. We're all going to be connected. We're going to be talking about Thomas Navarro, Patients' Rights Act, the film, the documentary film. We're going to get the perspective of both individuals today, both Jim Navarro and Beth Clay, on those issues. We'll be back in just a moment. Let's see how it goes.
Confused about how best to manage your health. It's no wonder. It seems that every time you turn on the television or radio, another expert has yet another suggestion for you to follow that seems to be reasonable enough, but no matter how dutifully you follow the instructions, it just doesn't quite produce the results that you were looking for. If this confusion sounds familiar to you, give us a call at the Center for Complementary Health, where we'll make some sense of the confusion based on a blending of traditional and alternative medicine that we've been perfecting over the last 7 years. We offer metabolic nutrition testing, immune system repair, natural hormone replacement therapy, chelation therapy,
Oh, you sure? Okay, good.
and a host of other safe and effective
Morning, Jim.
alternative therapies.
Dennis J.
All right, we've hooked up with you right now. We're hooking up with Beth.
Phone
Please don't do the stuff we're not going to hit a bunch of put us all on together.
Your friends and loved ones the gift of health with a very special gift from Fruit of the Spirit. Fruit of the Spirit combines 14 whole fruits with energizing minerals to give you great tasting, antioxidant-rich liquid nutrition with more health benefits than any other product of its kind. Take advantage of a special offer this Christmas. We will send a beautiful gift pack with a bottle of Fruit of the Spirit, portion glass, book, and brochure to each name on your shopping list for just $29.
We're going to give Beth a whole bunch of
Fruit of the Spirit, portion glass, book, and brochure to each name on your shopping list for just $29.
Fruit of the Spirit gift pack is a $57 value. This Christmas season is yours for just
Is she involved in that in any way?
shipping and handling not included. Call 1-800-793-8714.
Okay, let it go. Let it go. We'll be back. We'll talk
Take care
about
of the rest. Call now. That's 1-800-793-8714.
Hey, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again to AM Impact on Your Health. Heard here on KHB 620 each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney with you on this Friday version of the show. It is a get 'em up out of town version of the show. A little different, though, this Friday. We normally let you just take it away and sort of lead us in the direction you want to go. Today, we got two scheduled guests today that I'm sure you're going to enjoy hearing from. You know them both. You know them both extremely well. Much of how we came to know each of them centered around the life of a young boy, now extinguished that life has been. Young boy Thomas Navarro with a brain tumor. The plight of both Thomas and his family in the entire saga, we lived it as it happened. Thomas's departure back in 2001 is not in vain, however. More work continues on the Patient Rights Act that we're going to be discussing today, along with a whole host of other things. Let's say good morning to our two guests. First, the one I went and got. Let's say good morning to Jim. Jim Navarre, are you there with us, my friend?
Good, Dennis. How you doing this morning? Good morning.
I'm doing great. I keep getting mail from they're saying I scream, the guest doesn't talk loud enough. And one thing I know about you, Jim, you don't have trouble. So just speak louder to the phone. Maybe I scream. Okay, all right. And now our other guest, which Bill went and got, and hopefully he's hooked up with us now, is one Beth Clay. Beth, are you with us, dear?
I certainly am. Good morning, Dennis.
Ah, so nice to hear your voice, Beth. Glad you are aboard, and looking forward to this, the remainder of the hour that we can talk about a whole bunch of things. I think, Jim, I'm going to just start with you because there's a segment of this show that sort of we have to finish off one of the chapters. We opened that chapter up. It was back in August and September when you were letting us know that a documentary film on Thomas's life was being premiered, well, all over the place, literally, but it started out in California. We never really got any feedback on how that all went. So I'm going to ask you first, Jim, could you tell us how the movie premieres are going? Are they over with, and how were they accepted by the public, and what did you see as an offshoot from it?
Well, as a matter of fact, Dennis, it went very, very well. It started at the Mill Valley Film Festival in California, about 25 miles outside of San Francisco. And in fact, if you look at the website, cancerbusters.us, it has the film reviews there. It was very well received, even by, as I refer to them, the uninitiated with no medical background or no personal experience. They immediately got the message. And of course, the title didn't help there. It's called Cut, Poison, Burn.
Yeah, pretty graphic.
The only options allowed to use by conventional medicine. And so right now, as a matter of fact, just recently as yesterday, negotiations are continuing. Netflix is interested. Next film is going to be marketing and distributing. And I was just informed that the original contract has been expanded dramatically because of the reviews. We were just recently in Variety magazine, and again, very positive upbeat reviews.
So in that film, is that film obtainable? In other words, okay, I haven't seen the film. How do I get to see it? Do I have to purchase it, or do I have to go to one of these premieres? Our listeners, I'm sure, would like to see it. How do you do it?
This is what they're doing right now. You thought a snail would flow? The film industry. It's going to have its quote-unquote premiere dates in L.A., New York, as well as Washington, D.C., and Houston. From there, then it will go nationwide. But at the same time, very shortly after going nationwide, it will not only be available on DVD, but people can rent it on Netflix.
Oh, okay. Any time frame, or is it so slow you can't even tell us one?
Realistically, what they're telling me now is it'll be well in play by at the latest the end of January. So just a matter of weeks away. But the premieres will start somewhere between the middle of January and the end of January, because it'll have to show for a week in LA, a week in New York. That will make it a contender for an Academy Award under the documentary category, and then a week in Houston, and then we're looking at potentially a week in Washington at, Beth, correct me if I'm wrong, the Landmark Theater?
That may be the name of it, yes.
Yeah, where we will hopefully have a special showing for the Congress and Senate before we load both barrels and go in to reintroduce legislation.
Oh, great. Just to put one final cap before I turn to Beth, and I'm going to really get down and nasty with Beth to find out what the heck's been going on with her and the relationship as the two of you keep blossoming and bringing more to the forefront and make our governmental officials aware. Could you just encapsulate in as brief a way as possible the real plight that you uncovered back when you found out that you as a parent weren't in control of the destiny of your child's treatment, and that, of course, is what we end up talking about today with this bill that's going to be proposed, and we'll maybe move into that discussion. But let our listeners know, those that don't know already, how ineffective, how literally impotent they'll be if their children should get sick very severely with terminal diseases.
Well, in a nutshell, Dennis, they will be powerless. As the child of a terminally, or excuse me, as the parent of a terminally ill child, they have no legal right to choose their doctors or their treatment. Ultimately, it's up to the doctor, up to government to decide where you go, and if you in any way try to oppose them, it's immediate visit from Child Protective Services as well as potential imprisonment. The child is taken and treated against your will, essentially, and you either get it back damaged or death.
And so you did encapsulate that very well. The shock and awe to learn that you are virtually powerless, you have no say in the matter, is a revelation to many, I'm sure. The film, which ultimately will make it around here, we'll get a chance to see it, hopefully portrays that issue and really how your family had to run and hide and ultimately finally did receive the treatment that you wanted, but way too late to help Thomas. Hopefully the bill that we're going to be discussing here will allow others not to have to follow in your footsteps, if you know what I mean.
Correct, absolutely correct.
All right, now I got to turn to Beth. Beth, my dear, you were last with us just about that same time frame. We found out that you're no longer with the congressman, talking about Congressman Dan Burton. I still get it wrong about what you did for him. I said administrative assistant. I know I screw that always up, but
Well, I was professional staff on the committee, and I oversaw the health care oversight investigations for the Committee on Government Reform.
thank you for rescuing me.
Yes.
Thank you for rescuing me once again. Let me just say, folks, she did it all, okay? I mean, she made, whatever the title is, doesn't really say what happened, because I saw what happened, and Beth did it all. The congressman was so appreciative of you, Beth, and I just wanted to let our listeners know that I observed it, and whatever that title was, it wasn't strong enough. You should have been called king or queen, at least princess, okay?
You're too kind, did it?
All right, well, now you moved on to, I guess, greener pastures. You revealed that to us before, and you are now the dreaded lobbyist, okay?
I'm a government relations consultant, a.k.a. a lobbyist. And, the reality is we get a bad rap because of a few, bad apples in the barrel. And what we are able to do is to help people understand how to work with Congress, and actually, improve that communication so that when somebody or an organization or a company needs to achieve a goal, that they're not wasting their efforts, that they actually know, they learn how the system works. I understand the system, so I can help people work within the system. It's like an interpreter. If you don't speak the language, you have a very hard time communicating, and that's what lobbyists do, is we help people communicate effectively. So.
And the name of your, because I saw in your email to me the first time, the name of your business, what's it called now?
It's Capital Strategy Consultants.
Capital Strategy Consultants. So appropriate a title. And so you are like the head cook and bottle washer of this thing, I'm guessing, right?
Well, it's a small firm. There's two of us there, and, we work together. We have, between the two of us, we have about 30 years of government experience, 30, 40 years of government experience. So, we work pretty hard to help our clients communicate. And, to get back to, Jim's conversation, I met Jim. He called my office. He was persistent. And thankfully, he was able to get through, and we started working on these issues. And we've remained friends. Jim and Donna are some of my dearest friends, because once you get to know the Navarros, understand their story, and you understand what great, good, salt of the earth people the Navarros are, there's no way not to work with them.
Well, you certainly did work your way through all the pitfalls and tribulations that this family went through. As a friend, you were closely aligned to what they were doing next, and of course, the congressman at the time, because you were working with him, was very instrumental in helping this family ultimately get to the treatments that they were trying to seek. That was a messy deal, I'm sure. What recollections do you have of that, if any, Beth?
I have very vivid recollections of this. And it was very frustrating, both as a congressional staffer and as a parent, to see the control the FDA had over the decision-making process in cancer treatment. There's a small little glitch in the law that we were trying to correct that says that if you as a parent have a child with cancer, well, the first thing that happened was the doctor, their original treating physician, acted entirely inappropriately. When they wanted a second opinion, he called child services and wanted to force treatment before they had the opportunity for a second opinion, which is completely inappropriate in the medical environment. You're always supposed to get a second opinion. And the second thing they learned is they didn't get to make the decision. The doctors weren't honest with them about, up front with them about exactly what the protocol was going to be. That is always of concern. And two, they did their own research, and they found a treatment that was less toxic and had a better chance of success. And because it was still in clinical trials at the FDA, and the FDA clinical trial said that you had to first go through and fail chemotherapy and radiation, that before they could access this other less toxic treatment, that they were being barred from it. And the reality was they had to go through chemotherapy and fail it before they could access the Brzezinski protocol, which is what they felt as educated parents, informed parents, was the best choice for their child.
Yeah, you really did zoom in on the issue. They knew that they wanted to see Stanislav Brzezinski down in Houston, but they ultimately just had to succumb to what the FDA had, hoops they had to jump through. But this hoop wasn't just jumping through. You had to be exposed to terrible chemicals that they didn't want their child to be exposed to. Ultimately, they did what they were asked of them, and they did get to see Dr. Brzezinski, albeit too late to really save Thomas's life, which maybe at an earlier time, who knows what could have happened.
And sadly, one of the things that Jim probably doesn't talk about often is that Thomas's untimely passing was the result of the side effects of chemotherapy. It was not from his medulloblastoma. And had he been able to, during the chemotherapy, to continue, if he hadn't had the irritations in his throat and he could have continued to receive the dietary supplements that Donna so fantastically put together a protocol to work, he was doing great until he could no longer swallow the supplements, and that was when the decline took place. And so from that perspective, here we have great nutritional supplements that can help, and because, and one of the frustrating things for me, I actually went to New York and met with the treating oncologist with Donna before they started the chemotherapy, and the absurd relationship. He sat in his office, turned his back on Donna, looked at his computer before turning to speak to me, and when I asked him, what about nutrition to support Thomas during the chemotherapy, he shrugged his shoulders and said, that's not my deal, that's up to the parents, and basically moved on, and all he was concerned about was chemotherapy.
Yeah, unfortunately, or well understood, every listener listening to their words know all too well how poignant and accurate they really are. Even as adults, they're fearful of that position, let alone from the perspective of a parent watching their child, which is probably the worst thing of all. Better that it happened to you as an adult than to your child. So,
And the point is, this is a nation based on liberty. This is a key construct of what we are as a nation and as a people. And if you don't, as parents, have the liberty to make medical decisions for your child, then where have we come as a nation? And that was what the Thomas Navarro Act was about, was putting that choice back in the hands of the patient or the parent. And it was about making an educated and informed decision, but having that right, having that right returned to you instead of having some doctor at the FDA who has ties to the pharmaceutical industry already making that decision for you.
Jim, coming back to you now. It's been a number of years now since Thomas passed away. The hurt and all that would sting, and many couldn't respond. Many would be crippled by that. But you picked up the mantra and took it as a battle cry to do good things. Talk to us about how the initial concept of the Thomas Navarro Patients' Rights Act came about, it was unsuccessful in its previous form. There's now this newer approach. Give us some background on how we to this point, and then we're going to go back to Beth and find out, where it all stands now with respect to the process of bringing it to Congress.
You bet. First of all, if I could interject real quick, it's something that you and Beth may not know, but I did, after a long, hard talk with the doctors, did get him to admit and put on Thomas' death certificate that his cause of death was side effects of chemotherapy.
Oh, you got him to do that. What did you?
They did not put it as cancer, but as chemotherapy.
Were you holding a .45 automatic at the time? How did you get that done?
Only my invisible one.
Only your bit, boy. I'd love to be a fly on the wall.
He died hard enough in their presence for them to feel guilty enough to agree to it. They put it down.
Wow.
The other thing is, too, when we were all in New York during the time Beth was there, and they had forced the initial chemotherapy on him, one of the drugs in the cocktail was methotrexate. And the normal dosage, 400 units. They had done 10,000 units. And when in my concern, I called Dr. Pazdur at the FDA, the first words out of his mouth was, "Oh my God, they gave him too much." So I knew at that point it was going to be a fast race to the end. When we took him up to Syracuse, he went from the 11 inoperable tumors to 0, and again through supplements and through medicine, as a matter of fact. It disappeared within 10 weeks. And after the methotrexate, they stopped counting new tumors at 50. And the doctor admitted to me there that the leptomeningeal sarcoma, which he developed, was as a result of chemotherapy and nothing else.
Oh, boy.
I'm here to tell you that the person that tells you time heals all is a liar. Because it's 9 years out, Don and I still struggle with it. We've had recent struggles with his past. Because he should be 15 now and enjoying his brother's company. We decided there was an old axiom my father used to tell me, and that is your greatest revenge is success. So we decided at that point that within our physical power, we were not going to allow, if possible, any other family to suffer what we went through. And that's when I got Beth and others to brainstorm the Patient Rights Act, which essentially, and Beth to be more eloquent explaining it, but in a thumbnail, it's returning the right to the parents to make their own medical decisions for their child, as long as it is fully informed consent, as long as they realize while they are going down their path that there are other conventional approaches that can work as well or better. So once informed, it ultimately becomes the parents' choice to decide which way they want to travel.
All right, that seems like Beth. This is now in your court. This is your ball game now. This is your sandbox. Talking about how does one take that from the concept and move it into the governmental bureaucracy of formulating a bill and ultimately getting it passed. What pitfalls did you consider that you were going to approach? What finally have befallen you in terms of those pitfalls, or none maybe that were raised? But bring us up to speed on the conceptualization now and the formalization of the Thomas Navarro Patients' Rights Act.
Well, we are in the process right now of redrafting the original bill and making sure that none of anything that's happened in the Food and Drug Law, any of the changes in the last 9 years, we have to take that into account. So by the end of the year, Jim and I will have this bill drafted, and then once the new Congress comes into session, we will be taking it to our friends on the Hill and asking them to introduce it again. And we're going to need everybody's support in asking members of Congress to co-sponsor the bill so that we can get, it's easier to pass the bill when you have, half of the members of Congress as co-sponsors. So our goal is to get 50% of the members of Congress as co-sponsors so we can move it quickly. And my goal is in the next congressional session to see this passed. We have to take the power back in decision-making. we have seen in the last 2 years liberty being chipped away and personal choice being chipped away at by this government. This administration keeps grabbing power. And the last time I was on your show, we talked about the food safety bill, which passed the Senate, but now it's held up because it actually violated the Constitution and creating a spending bill in the Senate. So, the Constitution is there for a reason, and the first part of the Constitution is that we have liberty, and we have to take liberty back in our medical decision-making.
Now, just quickly, if you could, because you mentioned that food safety bill that did pass, how much of that bill is this? You know the mentality that myself and my listeners have. How do you view that bill? What was your personal insight as to that bill in terms of?
I worked on that bill a great deal for the organizations that I represent, and we made the bill. We got improvements in the language on the bill, but it was still not something we could support. So we opposed the bill, and even members of the Senate who had supported the bill in its development, such as Senator Hatch, ended up opposing the bill because it took too much power. It was too big, too expensive, and it took the decision-making out of the hands of the people and back in the hands of the government, which is not where it belongs. We have a very safe food supply in this country. We've had a few issues, where there have been problems. And frankly, and the egg issue is the most recent issue with the egg recall.
Yeah.
Frankly, that was government at the sleep at the switch, where they already had the power and they didn't use it. When a USDA inspector had the power to call the FDA and said, "We have a dirty farm here, come and do your job," he chose not to. So you don't need to give people who failed at the job more power. You need to make them do their job.
And just as one final note now, it passed the Senate. Okay, even without your support, I understand. It goes to the House, and everything that I read tries to say, well, look, it may not succeed, may not be able to pass through the House. You got a feeling about that? Is this bill going to be on its way to final passage before you know it? Or
I actually think they're going to run out of legislative year. They're looking for a way to make it happen, but there's enough opposition in the House that it may not move. And Senator Covert has been our greatest champion on this. He's a physician out of Oklahoma, and he stood fast and saying this bill doesn't need to happen. And we're hoping that they'll just run out of legislative year.
And if it should run out, it's over, right? I mean,
it's over unless somebody reintroduces a similar version next year.
All right, so they got so much to do there. I mean, maybe they won't get time to get to it because.
Well, they've got 3 weeks left in the year. A week of that they won't be in session because it'll be the Christmas holidays. They're trying to get out of town next week. They have to do a tax. They've got to extend the Bush tax credit. They have to look at unemployment. They have to look at. They're still working on the spending bills because if they don't do something by tomorrow, the government shuts down. Because they haven't done a continuing resolution, or they haven't passed the budget this year for the government. They keep doing continuing resolutions and putting off making those hard decisions. So that's where their focus is going to be.
Yeah, we're hearing this every day on the news. You can't help but miss that this Congress has got a couple of things they better get done and forget about all this other crazy stuff.
The thing you want them to do is to extend those Bush tax credits because it's going to be a rude awakening January 1st when everybody across the board taxes go up 20%.
Yeah,
that's not something people want to live with.
Absolutely. I really do think that so much posturing going on politically, but they just will not. My guess is that all the tax cuts are going to move through, and that's just my opinion. What the heck do I know? But
it's in their best interest to do that.
It really that's
people's best interest to see the tax cuts extended.
That's probably a better way of putting it. So then, okay, the new Congress comes in. When I spoke to you last, Beth, it was prior to the elections. We had some pretty good feelings about how the elections may go. Now those elections are over. From your perspective, how do you think they went? And with the new complexion of the next Congress, do you feel that it's more beneficial to accomplishing the objective with respect to the Thomas Navarro Patients' Rights Act or less?
I think that with the House turning Republican and with a very strong conservative, constitutionally based focus now. We're going to see the new members be very interested in this bill, and there's going to be a lot of education happening, of teaching, of giving this information to new members who weren't there 10 years ago, and the 50 or so members that are coming in new. And in the Senate, I want to give it, it didn't go Republican, but with Harry Reid winning, which in some small way that's a good thing, because if Senator Reid had lost his re-election battle, then we would have had Senator Durbin as the majority leader, or Senator Schumer as the majority leader. And frankly, for the health freedom community, those are bad options. We continue to have Senator Reid there, and we have Senator Hurton, who, except for the food safety bill, where he is a strong supporter on health freedom issues, he has been pretty good. So we continue to have him as chairman of the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, which would be the committee of jurisdiction for this bill.
All right, the stage is set, and you're feeling pretty good about it, huh, Beth?
I am feeling good about it, yes.
All right, let's do this. Take a short break. When we come back, what I want to do, you two, Beth and Jim, you two are talking like teenagers all the time. You're on the phone all the time with one another, so I understand. And going to find out some chatter. Jim blew in my ear about something going on in Cleveland, end of life stuff. And I'd be interested to get your perspective on what it is that you did up there, and what's going on with these chit-chats between the two of you, okay?
Certainly.
All right, Jim, you still there, right?
I sure am.
All right, come back. I want you to talk to me about Cleveland, and then we're going to find out how that fits into the grand scheme of things. There you have it, folks. We're going to take a short break. You got him. Nobody else does. You got him here with you, Jim Navarro, Beth Clay, talking about the Thomas Navarro Patients' Rights Bill, and what is up and coming. We'll find out what happened in Cleveland, too. There actually is something happening in Cleveland. Be right back.
Your friends and loved ones, gift of health, with a very special gift from Fruit of the Spirit. Fruit of the Spirit combines 14 whole fruits with energizing minerals to give you great tasting, antioxidant-rich liquid nutrition with more health benefits than any other product of its kind. Take advantage of a special offer this Christmas. We will send a beautiful gift bag with a bottle of Fruit of the Spirit, portion glass, book, and brochure with each name on your shopping list for just $29. That's a bottle of Fruit of the Spirit, portion glass, book, and brochure with each name on your shopping list for just $29.
Fruit of the Spirit gift pack is a $57 value. This Christmas season is yours for just $29, shipping and handling not included. Call 1-800-793-8714 with your shopping list, and Fruit of the Spirit will take care of the rest. Call now. That's 1-800-793-8714.
This is Dennis J. Courtney, MD. Have you become confused about how best to manage your health? It's no wonder. It seems that every time you turn on the television or radio, another expert has yet another suggestion for you to follow that seems to be reasonable enough, but no matter how dutifully you follow the instructions, it just doesn't quite produce the results that you are looking for. If this confusion sounds familiar to you, give us a call at the Center for Complementary Health, where we'll make some sense of the confusion based on a blending of traditional and alternative medicine that we've been perfecting over the last 7 years. We offer metabolic nutrition testing, immune system repair, natural hormone replacement therapy, chelation therapy, cutting-edge allergy correction, and a host of other safe and effective alternative therapies.
Dennis J. Courtney, MD, is located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray. Phone 724-942-3002.
Hey, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again to AM Impact on Your Health here on this Friday morning Get 'em Up Out of Town version of the show. Slightly different today, as I guess you can already gather. Not that we just haven't opened it up as we usually do to questions and answers. However, we are opening up to those that may have a specific question to one of our two guests, or both. Of course, we have with us Jim Navarro, father of Thomas Navarro, a young boy afflicted with brain tumors, and could not get the treatment of choice for his son, and had to jump through a whole bunch of hoops. Of course, this saga was one that we did document and follow quite closely in the time that it was happening. here it is many years later. Things are still happening, and we have Beth Clay with us, who's helping those matters really act and come across the finish line with a win in terms of the Thomas Navarre Patients' Rights Act, which we have just discussed. And hopefully, if you have any questions, by the way, they say they will take your questions. 412-825-6262 is that number. Once again, 412-825-6262. Now, before we left and took the break, I had mentioned, because Jim had mentioned to me, he travels all over the place, helping others who are either suffering a similar plight, or doesn't even have to be similar, they're just in need. And he seems to be able, like a magnet, to glom onto these folks and give the helping hand. Jim, you were recently up in Cleveland, pretty close to us here in Pittsburgh, but you were talking to me about an issue that surfaced in Cleveland that then prompted the need for you to call Beth and talk to Beth incessantly. So let's find out what that was and what the chit-chat was all about.
Well, basically, I had gotten a call from the Brandon Medical Group out of Scottsdale regarding a patient who was pursuing an alternative path. However, they had run into a series of roadblocks with the medical community there at the hospital they had gone to. Their particular patient was an older gentleman, about 60 years old, who had gone into the hospital for a cold. The cold became pneumonia, and from there the care stopped because the attitude was, oh, well, he's got cancer, he'll die anyway. And the basic horror of it was the fact that his lungs were filling with fluid. They were willing to, after a time, intubate him. However, they weren't willing to remove the fluid from his lungs. So basically, they were allowing him to breathe so he could feel the sensation of drowning. They had denied him hydration and nutrition for 12 and a half days, no antibiotics to stop the pneumonia, and the process just got worse from there. Now, the uniqueness of the case was, which I didn't find out until I had arrived, is this was a Bosnian family that had survived civil war there in Bosnia and had already lost some 29 members to that conflict. So they were by nature already not trusting and very suspicious. The other thing was, they were a Muslim family dealing with a non-Muslim medical facility that was not respecting their rights and traditions. So I basically went there to assist them to do, let's say politically correct, a course correction of the doctor's mindset and to get things right side up. And tragically, on the last morning that I was able to create an effect, after a second meeting with their director of risk management, where they finally agreed to put in a feeding tube, allow nutrition, and to empty his lungs, they had called a code blue at the end of the meeting, and by the time he got from the meeting back up to his room, he passed away about 20 seconds later.
Oh, geez. What irony there. You finally got what the guy needed, and like on cue, that was it. He died.
And understand, Dennis, that with this gentleman did not have a do not resuscitate order. He had not said, don't take dramatic. He wanted every dramatic or measure taken to save his life. He was not at death when he went into the hospital. He was not someone who was in hospice care where you would stop doing feeding. He was somebody who wanted every measure taken to save his life, and they refused to provide it.
This is against the code. This is a code of ethics.
It was horrendous. Now, I am trained as a hospice volunteer. I understand I have studied and even conducted coordinated congressional hearing on appropriate treatment at the end of life. And this was absolutely an absurd violation of every ethical code in medicine to deny a patient nutrition and hydration, to deny a patient antibiotics who has pneumonia. It was absolutely wrong, but the made a determination that this person was terminally ill because he had cancer diagnosis, and therefore he didn't need to have his life extended.
Wow. I have come across this in my own medical training where issues just about the type that you're talking about were being considered and contemplated by doctors and family members, but it was always in a case where the patient was literally brain dead, and it was an issue of whether a pull plug or not. And
when he went into the hospital, he was communicating, and up until the days before his passing, he was communicating and saying, "Save my life, do everything to keep me alive." He was the patriarch of his family, and they wouldn't. I mean, I actually ended up calling the head of the department and trying to have a conversation and and initiating a communication. There was a cultural barrier. There was prejudice against highly emotional women who were in a hospital room, dealing with seeing their patriarch not be properly cared for. And what Jim didn't tell you is they also forced the family out of the room, out of the floor of the hospital where he was being treated, across the hospital at times, completely away from him. So he didn't even have his entire family with him at his passing.
Seems so against all that I know and have been involved with in medicine. What the heck is going on up at this facility? This is not common. That thing about the chemotherapy, that's standard. That's everywhere.
This is the interpretation of a death panel. I mean, this is what I felt like when I was dealing with this. This is what's going to happen if Obamacare is completely implemented. You have a medical official making a determination on to or not to treat, and you didn't have a say-so. The patient didn't have a say-so to get treatment. His family, who were fighting for him, asking, begging, drain the fluid from his lungs so that he can breathe. Simple procedure. Should have been done every time his lungs filled up. They refused, and he had insurance. Money was not the issue. The decision was that he has cancer. He's going to die anyway. Let's let it happen quicker.
I hear your assessment. I can appreciate what the point is, and boy, it's a scary point. If other facilities, and as I say, in my career, I've had to confront this many times on the floors and patients that I took care of, and it was always that brain dead patient where the plug issue.
Well, certainly.
Yeah, you can understand that.
Hard decision.
Yeah, you can understand that the family's wrenching with it, and no one would have ever withdrawn anything without the complete consent of that family. And I'll tell you, the nurses were screaming at us doctors whenever they saw something like this going on. Those are the true angels of medicine, I got to tell you. And if the nurses aren't, raising a stink about this and allowing this to take place, then there has been an entire turnaround in medicine, because I know that they would have never stood for it. The nurses that I worked with never stood for a patient literally suffering like that. Never.
Well, Dennis, another thing, too, is in the last couple of days of his life, it disintegrated to the point where they actually did a memorandum to the family, both in English and in Bosnian, that they were not allowed to have more than 2 family members on the same floor with them. And they brought in armed security and placed them at his door. And on the day that he died, I literally went floor by floor and videotaped the entrance to every room to show that the only patient who had armed security at the door was the patient that I had gone to assist. And, they are a very emotional culture. Now, remember, too, and to show you the arrogance of the doctors, one of the doctors had said to the young lady that I was assisting, well, he's not even your father. He's only an uncle. So what's your interest in this? What they didn't know that I had to educate them to is when this young woman was 3 years old, she saw her father murdered at the hand of Serb soldiers. Her uncle, who was the patient, had spent 3 days crawling through enemy lines, being wounded in the process, find her, bring her home, and raise her as his own daughter. So you bet there was an interest, an emotional interest.
Wow.
And when he passed, of course, the hysteria set in, and they were attempting to remove all the tubes, basically drag him and remove him, which I know that sounds crude, but that's what they were doing. And I physically stopped them and said, have to stop right now. And of course, the doctor called security, and he says, don't you touch me, you can't touch me. I said, listen up, because I'm going to say it once. First of all, this man practices the Muslim faith. You cannot touch him. If you touch him after he's dead, he cannot go to paradise in their faith system. The tubes have to be removed by either a Muslim staffer or a member of his family that practices the faith. Then the women of the family come in to bathe the dead. The men don't participate in it. After that, he has to put in a burial shroud. His bed turned towards the east, towards Mecca.
Wow, I had no idea.
You have to bring in an imam and a Quran. They can say the prayers for his safe passage. If you touch him, you violate him. Then you're going to have a war on your hands.
And Dennis, you understand, you're in the practice of medicine. The issue of cultural competence is a top issue in our country. We are a nation of immigrants. We are a nation of many religions. And it's not like they didn't know that there was going to be a need, to respect that religion. And whatever your feelings about Islam, and your listeners' feelings about Islam, this is something that, as a medical professional, you have a responsibility to be respectful of.
Well, absolutely.
I appreciate that Jim, in all of our difficult times, took the energy and the time to say, wait a minute, it's already a bad situation. You've already basically cost this man his life. Let's respect him, and at the end of his time, and let his family, have the appropriate moment to, follow this process through to the end, and an appropriate and religious competence there.
Wow.
And this is a challenging issue that we all deal with in understanding different cultures that we come into contact with and respecting. And that's a great thing about our country is we have, the freedom to practice our religion, the freedom of speech, the freedom we're supposed to have, medical freedom, which that's what Jim and I are fighting for. And in this whole process that happened in Cleveland, this family, who came to this country after living through Civil War, after having many family members lost to the Civil War, dealt with this atrocity in medicine that should never have happened. This man should still be alive today, living with his family, celebrating Thanksgiving, celebrating, the coming holidays. And he didn't, he doesn't have that chance. And I know I am grateful for Jim for being willing to just drop everything and go to Cleveland to work on this.
Wow. You have introduced a subject that will need to be touched upon again and again. There's going to be reason as we meet in January. We're going to come back, folks. Do you mind coming back? Because you're going to have a new Congress to work with. We'll find out more about the act, the Thomas Navarro Act, and more about these end-of-life issues, I'm sure. Will you all come back?
Happy to.
All right, folks, there you have it. What a show today. Really enjoyed bringing it to you. And these two fine friends of mine, you can tell, on a crusade all their own. Look, I want you all to have a great weekend. I'll see you on Monday. Don't forget the old bus girl, the new Dr. Vavavoom, is going to be with us. Until then, this is Dr. Dennis Courtney with Beth and Jim saying so long for AM Impact on Your Health.
AM Impact on Your Health is sponsored by Dennis J. Courtney, M.D., Director of the Courtney Medical Group, located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray, Pennsylvania. For more information or to make an appointment, call 724-942-3002.
It's a good one, buddy. It's like 15 minutes. It'll be up on the website.
For Dennis J. Courtney, M.D.
All right. Have a great holiday, and it looks like 2011
wants you to know the Paralyzed Veterans of America salute those who
yeah.
served and sacrificed for our freedom each day.